Chairman Greenspan, the markets tomorrow, how are they going to view this downgrade of America's credit rating?
It's difficult to say, but the only test we have at the moment is the Israeli market, which is open today, and it is tanked. The problem I have with that, however, is there are riots not riots, I say, real significant protests within Israel at the moment, so I can't tell whether one is the other. But considering the momentum in which the market went down over the last week, it is very unlikely, if history is any guide, that this isn't going to take a while to bottom out. So the initial reaction, in my judgment, is going to be negative.
Are U.S. Treasury bonds still safe to invest in?
Very much so. I think this is not an issue of credit rating. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default. What I think the S&P thing did was to hit a nerve, that there's something basically bad going on. And it's hit the self-esteem of the United States, the psyche, and it's having a much profounder effect than I conceived could happen, because the economics of what they're talking about is very clear, and you cannot see any way in which we can go, as we were on Friday, for a vast movement of international funds into the dollar at very low interest rates, and then turn on a dime. That is not going to happen. And so that this is not the issue that they make it.
Austin Goolsbee, you heard John McCain say, don't shoot the messenger, don't shoot S&P, and yet the White House has been engaged in just that, in a detailed taking down of the basis for why S&P downgraded the United States. Make that case.
Well, the basic case, they made a $2 trillion math error and forgot to check their work. So the rating agencies that didn't make a $2 trillion math error reaffirmed the AAA status. You saw Warren Buffett say that if they had a quadruple A, he would put U.S. Treasuries in quadruple A status. I think with the S&P downgrade being based on, let's say, questionable mathematics was the root of why the Treasury was saying that. I think in this case, if you get away from just was there a mistake in what they did, the broader point being, we've just gone through a period where members of the U.S. government were standing up in public and saying maybe it would be okay if the U.S. government defaulted on some of its obligations. That's a deeply unsettling moment. I think that calls on us to maybe do some of the bipartisan things. You saw Senator Kerry talking about an infrastructure bank, or whether it's the free trade agreements or things where there is bipartisan agreement, that we could show the world that actually it's not complete dysfunction in Washington, but this debt ceiling debate obviously made some people nervous.
All right, before I widen out the discussion to the whole table, let me do one more, Chairman Greenspan, with the cover of The Economist magazine, which caught my eye. Time for a double dip is the question, and whether we are bracing for a double dip recession. Is that where we're headed?
Depends on Europe, not the United States. The United States was actually doing relatively well, sluggish, but going forward until Italy ran into trouble. That destabilized the European system, and the crisis reemerged. Europe is very critical to the United States in the sense not only that we have a fourth of our exports there, but more importantly, a significant proportion of the foreign affiliate profits, in fact half, of U.S. corporations are in Europe. And that has been a very important driving force in the overall earnings of U.S. corporations, and therefore the stock market rise, which has been the most important driver of economic activity in the United States. When Italy showed signs of significant weakness in selling its bonds, their yield is now over 6%, which is an unsustainable level. It created a massive problem within Europe because Italy is a very large country, cannot be easily bailed out, and indeed cannot be bailed out. And that's what's causing our problem.